This week in Jamaica Now, how a Kingston College student was robbed by two boys wearing khaki pants. Jealousy sparks double murder-suicide in Montego Bay, St. James. Dream Weekend security guard granted bail in the murder case of a Kingston businessman. Disgusting, Senate passes law to protect government from lawsuits for illegally collecting PPV licensing fees from motorists for 26 years. All 28 Jamaican fishermen in boat fire at sea returned home from Colombia. And the sex controversy over the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh as a U.S. Supreme Court judge.
That's not who I am. It is not who I was.
I'm Damian Mitchell, and this is Jamaica Now. A Kingston College student was left traumatized this week after he was held up and robbed along North Street while on his way home with his peers. The boy reported that he was robbed of his wallet and $1,000. The robbers, who appeared to be students, were dressed in khaki pants and casual shirts. They advanced from behind on the group of boys, then collared one, pushed him to a wall, and proceeded to rob him. His peers later reported that they were threatened when they pleaded with the robbers to desist. The robbers eventually relented on the approach of a police vehicle. However, the police unit drove past them, apparently unaware that a robbery was in place. Rosemount, St. James residents are trying to come to terms with the murder of a mother and her daughter and the suicide of the woman's common-law husband. 45-year-old Dion Smith, a service station supervisor, was stabbed several times and the throat of her 16-year-old daughter, Jaychanel Gordon, slashed as the child slept. Gordon was a student at the Herbert Morrison Technical High School. The accused killer, Fabian Lusang, later killed himself by driving a car into the Rio Cobre in St. Catherine. It is reported that the killing may have been sparked by jealousy, as Lusang had been complaining that Smith was being unfaithful to him. Dream Weekend security guard Mike Chin is to return to court on November 9 to answer to the murder of a Kingston businessman. On Friday, Chin was granted bail in the sum of $300,000 and ordered to surrender his travel documents. His attorney, Peter Champagny, told the court that Chin was acting in self-defense when he shot and killed businessman John Matthew. Matthew is reported to have attempted to bring a female into the VIP area at a Dream Weekend party without an armband and was denied by the security guard. It is alleged that during the altercation, the businessman pulled a gun and pointed it at Chin. The guard then reportedly pulled his licensed firearm and shot Matthew, killing him. Opposition Senator K.D. Knight was not happy on Friday morning when he rose to contribute to the debate on a bill to protect the government from legal action because for almost 30 years it had been illegally collecting licensing fees from the operators of public passenger vehicles. "It is disgusting. It's terrible," said Knight, before the lawmakers on both sides unanimously approved the Transport Authority Validation and Indemnity Act. The bill was recently passed in the House of Representatives. The bill notes that during the period December 1, 1989 to December 8, 2015, the Transport Authority, in good faith, collected fees from the operators of public passenger vehicles in order to defray the costs associated with regulation and monitoring of public vehicles. However, the agency did not have the legal authority to collect the fees. Senator Knight acknowledged that he was a member of the cabinet while the fees were being collected illegally, but insisted that it was not good governance. All 28 Jamaican fishermen involved in a boat fire at sea have now returned home from Colombia. The last batch of 24 fishermen was repatriated on Tuesday. On Saturday, the first batch of 4 fishermen returned. The men were rescued on September 14 following a fire and an explosion on their vessel the day before. They reported that the ignition system on their 131-foot fishing boat caught fire and quickly spread. The fire hit the boat's gas container, which exploded, forcing the fishermen to jump into the water and escape. They were rescued by the U.S. Coast Guard officials. Jamaica this week made its first shipment of medical marijuana extract oil to Canada. Industry, Commerce and Agriculture Minister Audley Shaw says Jamaica is uniquely positioned to be a global player and is committed to providing the resources required for opening the international markets. The shipment was authorized through an import permit issued by the Government of Canada and an export permit issued by the Ministry of Health in Jamaica. Overseas, a U.S. Senate committee has voted to approve the controversial nomination of Brett Kavanaugh to the U.S. Supreme Court. Kavanaugh is at the center of allegations over sexual misconduct.
I was pushed onto the bed and Brett got on top of me. He began running his hands over my body and grinding into me. I believed he was going to rape me. I tried to yell for help, When I did, Brett put his hand over my mouth to stop me from yelling. This is what terrified me the most and has had the most lasting impact on my life. It was hard for me to breathe, and I thought that Brett was accidentally going to kill me.
That's not who I am. It is not who I was. I am innocent of this charge. I intend no ill will to Dr. Ford and her family. The other night, Ashley and my daughter Liza said their prayers, and little Liza, all of 10 years old, said to Ashley, we should pray for the woman. It's a lot of wisdom from a 10-year-old.
Hours after Kavanaugh's testimony, key Republican Senator Jeff Flake said he would vote in favor of the judge, but Flake later asked for a week's delay of Kavanaugh's confirmation hearing in the full Senate to allow for an FBI probe into the sex claims. Flake's change in position came after he was cornered by two women at an elevator who insisted that the allegations against Kavanaugh were true.
I cannot imagine that for the next 50 years they will have to have someone in the Supreme Court who has been accused of violating a young girl. What are you doing, sir?
I was sexually assaulted and nobody believed me. I didn't tell anyone, and you're telling all women that they don't matter, that they should just stay quiet because if they tell you what happened to them, you're going to ignore them. That's what happened to me, and that's what you're telling all women in America, that they don't matter. They should just keep it to themselves because if they have told the truth, you're just going to help that man to power anyway.
And that's it for this edition of Jamaica Now, your weekly review of the big news stories. Send us your comments at onlinefeedback@gleanerjm.com. You may tune in to Power 106 FM for regular updates. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Jamaica Gleaner and on Facebook at Gleaner Jamaica. I'm Damian Mitchell, and before we go, 81-year-old retired comedian Bill Cosby was this week sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison for sex crimes. Here's how the case unfolded.